You go down every day to try to find out what's really going on there. It's tough because the whole apparatus is designed to prevent you from finding out what's really going on if it's anything but wonderful. If it's wonderful, they'll find you. They'll call you at home. I mean, the president will come to the press room. It's okay. But if it's not wonderful, and in this world of ours, many things aren't that a chief executive has to deal with, they will guard him. He's the best, most kind, decisive, toughest, empathetic president the United States has ever had, and that's their job. And I understand that, and you understand that. Press secretary comes out and dances the light fantastic. You wouldn't expect him to come out and say, that guy in the Oval Office that I work for, what a ninny he was on this issue. Are you kidding? There's nothing wrong with that. But you try to find out what's really going on. And remember the Ronald Reagan saying, trust everyone but cut the cards. So you ask questions, and you're constantly probing. And you're asking opponents, who you carefully label them as the critics, and they'll give you, and you talk to people on background, and they'll often tell you things that they won't tell you on the record. And finally, to some extent, you use your own judgment. Not that you go out and you say, I'm going to report tonight on my judgment. No. But in trying to figure out what's going on, does this sound right? Is this the way it all works? Or not? You put it all together. And finally, you have to be aggressive. You can't just sit back and wait. They won't come to you unless it's all the good news, which they would publish in their National Committee's newsletter, and you could read it there. And you can't be afraid to push. Now, I think you must be respectful, but I think you've got to be respectful to the mayor, not just the President of the United States. And so when I ask questions of presidents, I always tried to be respectful, but I tried to be very direct. If you ask a president, Mr. President, can you tell us when you think you might withdraw troops from Iraq, and do you believe that the appropriation for the flood victims is adequate? And would you also comment on, you're lost. He can answer A or B or C of your question, or none. You ask one question, like the old torpedoman of World War II, hot, straight, and true. You ask it direct and straight. And if you follow up, you can say respectfully, sir, that wasn't my question. My question was, or you haven't answered my question. Could you answer that? Or why, sir, would you not answer the question? And you always say, sir. And someday it'll be ma'am. But don't let up. You're there to hold the people in power to answer to the constituency, not you, but the American public, through whatever part of that public watches you or reads you. You're kind of their emissary. You're not there to be on his team. You're not there to be against him. But you're there to, if your question really turns out that he's got a good answer, you haven't lost a thing. People can say, what a dumb question. The president was quite right in saying this, that, and the other. But if you don't ask the question because you're either too timid to, or you think it might be, a little tough or what have you, and it turns out he didn't have a good answer, which he didn't have to try to give, then you have lost something. So don't be afraid to do that. I was so lucky. When I was at the White House, and Roone Arledge was my boss, he backed me. When they called, and they did on more than one occasion, to say, well, that's terrible the way he asked that question, the way he acted. Roone would listen very politely, and I'd get a raise, as long as Roone felt that I was within bounds doing the right thing. I'm afraid today some news organizations' reporters aren't as lucky as I was. Their bosses may not want them to confront the president in the same way that I felt free to do so. By confront, I mean asking a question that his partisans would think is tough, or, we don't want to hear that. But Roone always backed me. And it was a great feeling. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't that I thought, well, Roone is backing me. Since he was always backing me, I didn't even have to think about it. I think today that some of the reporters don't have that opportunity.